Welcome, lovely viewers, to another exciting video. Thank you for choosing our video on VP-50. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. VP-50 was a long-lived patrol squadron of the US Navy, having held that designation for 39 years from 1953 to 1992. Its nickname was the Blue Dragons. Originally established as VP-917 on 18 July 1946, redesignated Medium Patrol Squadron Landplane VP-67 on 15 November 1946, redesignated VP-892 in February 1950, redesignated VP-50 on 4 February 1953 and disestablished on 30 June 1992. The time has come to unravel the secrets behind operational history and gain a deeper understanding. 18 July 1946, VP-917 was established at NAS Sand Point, near Seattle. The squadron came under the operational control of FAW-14 and administrative control of the Naval Air Reserve Training Command NARTC. The squadron was one of 21 Naval Reserve squadrons established after the war to accommodate the large number of aircrews recently released from active duty and utilize the enormous stocks of aircraft in the inventory. The squadron flew the PBY Air Catalina seaplane and the PV-2 Harpoon landplane. 15 November 1946, all patrol squadrons were redesignated. Regular Navy Patrol Squadron designations began with 1 and Reserve Patrol Squadrons began with 5 or higher. VP-917 was redesignated VP-ML-67. The ML for Reserve Squadrons included twin-engine medium amphibious seaplanes, as well as twin-engine land-based bombers. Regular Navy Patrol Squadron ML designations were for twin-engine medium land-based bombers only. Amphibious medium seaplanes like the PBY were in the amplitude modulation category. February 1950, VP-ML-67 was redesignated VP-892 during the reorganization of Naval Aviation Reserve units in 1949, but the change did not take effect until February 1950. During this period, the number of Naval Aviation Reserve squadrons was reduced from the 1949 total of 24 to 9. By this date, the squadron had transitioned to the PBM-5 Mariner. 20 July 1950, VP-892 was called to active duty as a result of the Korean War. The squadron reported for duty to command the Naval Air Force Pacific Fleet at NAS San Diego, Calif. At the start of hostilities, the Navy patrol forces on active duty numbered just 20 squadrons, and it quickly became apparent that this meager figure was inadequate to meet the increased demands. By the end of 1957, reserve patrol squadrons were called to active duty to augment the active duty Navy patrol squadrons. The squadron reported aboard NAS San Diego on 4 August 1950 for training under FAW-14. 23 November 1950, VP-892 began its first deployment at Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni, Japan, reporting to Commander Fleet Air Japan and FAW-6 on 13 December 1950. During the deployment, the squadron was involved in ASW, reconnaissance and weather information flights in the Sea of Japan and along the coasts of China and North Korea. The squadron's first mission was flown on 18 December 1950, making it the first flown by any reserve squadron in the Korean War. August 1951, VP-892 returned to NAS San Diego, Calif. to begin transitioning to the PBMS seaplane. The squadron became operational in January 1952. 12 February 1 March 1952, VP-892 deployed to Naval Station Sangley Point, Philippines, for duties under FAW-1. On 1 March 1952, the squadron began its second tour of operations in the Korean Combat Zone, conducting patrols over the China coast and China Sea. 1 May July 1953, VP-50 deployed to NAS Sangley Point, with patrol duties covering the South China Sea. On 1 June 1953, A detachment began operations at MCAS Iwakuni, flying patrols in the combat zone over the Korean coastline, Yellow Sea and Sea of Japan. On 30 June 1953, a squadron mariner sank near Iwakuni while taxiing to test engines. No one was injured or lost, and boats rescued the crew from the water. The tender later made several unsuccessful attempts to raise the sunken aircraft. On 17 July destroyed the sunken PBM with underwater demolition charges to eliminate any danger to vessels navigating in the area. The detachment rejoined the squadron at NAS Sangley Point on 27 July 1953. 1953, while the detachment of VP-50 squadron began operations at MCAS Iwakuni under the command of NAVYAIRWINGSIX flying patrols in the COMBATZONE over the Korean coastline, Yellow Sea and Sea of Japan. During this operation, VP-50 suffered for hostile attacks over the Yellow Sea near the coast of China, and one PBM mariner disappeared with a crew of 14, their fate unknown. 21 July 1953, PBM-5 two Chinese MiGs damaged a U.S. Navy PBM-5 mariner Yellow Sea. 2 October 1953, PBM-5 SE-3 Buno 84713 hostile attack with damage Yellow Sea. 6 November 1953, PBM-5 SE-2 Buno 84747 hostile attack, no damage Yellow Sea. 7 November 1953, People's Republic of China PLAAF pilot Xike Lin claimed to have shot down a U.S. Navy PBM mariner in Qingdao, Tsingtao, China. This might have been Buno 58152, 10 MADNESS reported lost over the Yellow Sea on 10 November. 10 November 1953, PBM-5 SE-10 Buno 85152 possible SOS sent declared missing Yellow Sea. 10 November 1953, a PBM-5 Mariner Buno 85152 call sign 10 MADNESS disappeared while on patrol of the Yellow Sea with a crew of 14 who were listed as missing from an operational loss. In 2005, the crew of 10 MADNESS awarded the Navy Combat Action Ribbon, Purple Heart, Air Medal. The Republic of South Korea bestowed Presidential Unit Citations and Korean War Service medals. This is the only hostile shoot-down in VP-50 Squadron's long history and the only PBM mariner shot down during the Cold War. November 1953, PBM-5 SE-2 Buno 84747 hostile attack, no damage. 31 August 1954, VP-50 deployed to MCAS Iwakuni, Japan. The aircraft designated by the squadron as 7 Madness was forced down with a burning port engine while returning from a routine patrol in the Yellow Sea. It was ditched safely and the crew was rescued. However, the seaplane sank while under tow. 1 June 1956, VP-50 became the last active-duty Navy patrol squadron to replace its PBM mariners with the new 2 Marlin seaplane. Upon completion of the transition, the squadron's permanent home port was changed from NAS North Island, California, to NAS Whidbey Island, Washington. 25 September 1959, a United States Navy Martin II Marlin Buno 135,540 SG Takeoed 6 of VP-50 was patrolling out of NAS Whidbey Island when it was forced to ditch in the Pacific Ocean, about 100 miles west of the Washington-Oregon border. A Mark 90 depth charge casing was lost and never recovered, but it was not fitted with an active warhead. The 10 crew members were rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard after 10 hours in a raft. The press was not notified at the time. 1 April 1960, VP-50 was given a new home port at MCAS Iwakuni, Japan, under the operational and administrative control of FAW-6. 1 October 1961, 54, 28 and 40 were assigned to Task Force 72, U.S. Taiwan Patrol Force, keeping watch over international waters bordering Communist territory from Siberia to North Vietnam. This action was in response and result of the Berlin crisis. Units of the Naval Air Reserve, including 5 patrol and 13 carrier anti-submarine squadrons, were called to active duty. 30 June-August 1964, VP-50 received a permanent change of station, relocating its home port from MCAS Iwakuni, Japan, to Naval Air Station North Island, San Diego. The squadron was the last of 5 overseas patrol squadrons to return to home ports in the continental U.S. The squadron's 12 SP Marlins were turned over to the Bureau of Weapons for storage at Iwakuni. Upon arrival at NAS North Island, VP-50 accepted 12 similar aircraft from VP-47, becoming fully operational on 6 August 1964. 26 August 1965. VP-50 deployed to NAS Sangley Point with a detachment at Buckner Bay, Okinawa, and Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. Tender support at Buckner Bay was provided by, and at Cam Ranh Bay by. The squadron flew 162 Operation Market Time missions, and its aircraft were hit by ground fire on 10 occasions. 23 August 1966, VP-50 deployed to NAS Sangley Point with FAW-10. During the deployment, a detachment operated out of Cam Ranh Bay, RVN, supported by the tender. On 6 January 1967, aircraft SG-13, while on a training flight, crashed in the South China Sea 20 miles west of Corregidor, killing all 10 men aboard. Cause of the accident could not be determined. 1 July 1967, VP's home port was changed from NAS North Island to NAS Moffett Field, California, and the squadron began the transition from the 2 Marlin seaplane to the Pier Orion Landplane. 6 November 1967, ASP Uber VP-50 took off from San Diego Bay, being the last United States Navy seaplane flight. 1 May 1968, VP-50 deployed to NAS Sangley Point with a detachment at NAF Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. The squadron was the first P-3 Orion unit to operate from the Cam Ranh Bay facility and earned a meritorious unit commendation for the performance of its duties during this period. 11 June 1979, VP-50 deployed to NAF Kadena, Okinawa, relieving VP-47. During August, numerous missions were flown in support of the Vietnamese refugees, infrared turret under the chin and harpoon air-to-surface missile capability. The squadron became fully operational with the new updates during its first ready alert on 1 March 1988. 17 April 1980, a squadron PIC, Buno. 158,213 SG-3 crashed on Pogo Pogo. After dropping 6 paratroopers as part of a Samoan Flag Day celebration, the pilot purposely flew the aircraft underneath the well-briefed tramway cable despite being directly told the P-3 was not to be part of the air show. The cable was too hard to see, the flight path was misjudged at speed, and the aircraft vertical tail was sheared completely off the aircraft before it banked and crashed as it rolled and dove into the parking lot of the Rainmaker Hotel. 6 crewmen were killed in the mishap as well as 1 civilian on the ground at the hotel. It is a fact well documented in the accident report that the PIC Alan Glennie boasted of what he was going to do the night before the air show for a hot dogging display, and the crash was blamed on pilot error. The CEO was subsequently relieved of his command after the results of the accident investigation. These crew members lost their lives: LT Alan R. Glennie, LTJ G.P. Conroy, or Steve R. Buchanan, AMS N.L. Skates, O.J.H. Sharp, and a T.J. Delvisio. 10 December 1983, VP-50 deployed to NAF Misawa, Japan, with a detachment at Naval Air Facility Adak, Alaska, relieving VP-40. During the deployment, the squadron conducted numerous peacetime aerial reconnaissance program flights monitoring the transit of Soviet military vessels. 1986, VP-50 upgraded its PIC baseline with the PIC MOD avionics package, including new acoustic processors, long-range navigation gear, secure communications, enhancements, and harpoon missile capability. 3 January 1987, VP-50 deployed to NAF Kadena with a detachment at Diego Garcia. On 10 January, the Cadena detachment repositioned to Diego Garcia, where operations were focused on the Gulf, North Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean. Detachments were established at intervals at Masira Island, Oman. 22 June 1987, the squadron's first PIC MOD aircraft was accepted for PIC Update III retrofit program. The aircraft had an entirely new underwater acoustic monitoring system, doubling the number of sonobuoys that could be monitored concurrently over earlier systems. IBM signal processors provided a fourfold gain in isolating sounds of submerged targets from ocean background noise. Improvements in avionics, computers on Moya 8 and cooling systems were added. 6 February 1988, a PIC was damaged during a touch-and-go landing in an area where the runway was under construction. The pilot was able to make a wheels-up landing with 3 engines at nearby Cecil Field with no injury to any of the 5 crew aboard. For August 1988, VP-50 deployed to NAF Mysore, Japan. During the deployment, the squadron was able to conduct several Pony Express operations missile shot surveillance on the People's Republic of China. 1 November 1989, VP-50 deployed to NAS Cubi Point, Philippines, with a detachment at NAF Diego Garcia. In December 1989, Philippine insurgents attempted a coup. VP-50 flew battle group support missions to cut off the potential supply lines for the rebels. 21 March 1991, 2 VP-50 Orions, PIC, Buenos. 158,930 and 159,325 had a mid-air collision off the southern coast of California, killing all 27 aircrewmen aboard. The cause for the mishap could not be determined. 30 June 1992, VP-50 was disestablished at NAS Moffett Field, Calif. Brace yourself for an in-depth analysis as we navigate through home port assignments and its far-reaching implications. The squadron was assigned to these home ports, effective on the dates Shannon Point, Washington, 18 July 1946, NAS San Diego, North Island, California. For August 1950, NAS Whidbey Island, Washington. 1 June 1956, MCAS Owatuni, Japan. 1 April 1960, NAS North Island. 30 June 1964, NAS Moffett Field, California. 1 July 1967. Brace yourself for a deep dive into aircraft assignment as we explore its impact and relevance in our evolving narrative. The squadron first received the following aircraft on the dates: Champion July 1946, PV-2 July 1946, PBM-5 1949, PBMS August 1951 to June 1956, SPUB December 1962, PIA July 1967, PUB 1970, PIC 1971, PIC MOD 1986, PIC UIIR June 1987. Thanks for being a part of this amazing journey. I can't wait to bring you more exciting content.